Guys, nature cards today. Starting off with probably my favorite order. Soon to be second because of a new card that came out, and I think we all know which card that is. It's not in nature. I'll give you a hint. It's not in nature. Freshman in high school, done with the semester here. Awesome. Well, I mean, presentation to graduate high school, or, I guess the finish your years, done for the year. You have all summer to play Lightseekers, man. You have all summer. Think about that. Guys, what do we have here but the first of many nature cards? There's a Lush Lost Behemoth. It's an animal. It's a beast card. It's XX56. Damage your target. Your target draws one card. This is good. This is really good. I'm going to give this... Ooh... I want to say this gets like 3.5 stars. It is going to be a nice, big, threatening thing. But Lush Lost Behemoth, in my opinion, does have to compete with cards like Hungry Behemoth, has to compete with cards like Stampeding Tusker, which are always staying in. They are the heavy-hitting, more beast buffs that we have out there. It's also, surprisingly enough, probably in my opinion, going to compete with the Mantic's what's the one? It's essentially this card, but it's an insect and it has attack abilities. It's XX56. I cannot think of it. It's a Mantix card. When is the draw? The draw is like during the buff phase. Mantix Tunneler. Thank you, Rocket Czar. Thank you. So yeah, the draw is like they take the 5 damage, then they draw a card, then it's your action phases. So they would draw a card while this card rotates. Nature has been having a lot of fun things to do with your opponent's hand size lately. As we've seen before, there is a Mossfoot Ridge. I don't know which one it is. The Shimmer Rider. The Shimmer Rider that does deal with your opponent's hand size. There are a lot of other cards just in nature alone that deal with your opponent's hand size. So this could be utilized to some degree to do fun and interesting things. And because of that, because it's a nice thing that like allows your opponent to draw. The thing is, we didn't really see cards like that utilized in nature yet. We might now, like Ashwood Diva really wasn't used. It's like, oh, I'll draw 3 cards, but I'm giving them 2 cards. We did see Long Distress. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I did not know that. I did not know that. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. I apologize. I think it's back maybe to 5 or 6 second, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I mean it's competing with all the other high heavy hitting buffs in nature. The thing that this has over it is a beast, so it's only really competing in the beast family with Hungry Behemoth and Stampeding Tusker. Those all require abilities to really get the full benefit out of them. Stampeding Tusker needs to restart. Hungry Behemoth needs to, it's an attack ability right away, so you're not even getting it on the rotation phase. The other cards that I'm looking at here, like, we have a lot of really good beast buffs already. We have the, oh lord, what am I trying to say? The Corvid Conspiracies, the Scalefang was, the Vicious Scalefang was a really nice addition to Beast. Really nice, quick 2 hit on the board, then 4, and you could restart a whole bunch of other ways. Lush Lost Behemoth, I know people have been saying like there's some really cool card synergies where like especially the new the Kriebel card that we got for nature allows you to rotate a beast buff 1 step forward and then restart it. With Lush Lost Behemoth being able to do 11 damage and then restart this, it's like, oh, it's really good. I mean, you could do it with Vicious Scalefang and still get 6 damage and not have your opponent draw a card or 2 cards on the same turn. The reason I rated this one like a 3.5 is because it is just a nice heavy hitting buff. If nature goes in the way that I think it's going to go, where it's more just tempo, aggression, just straight out the gate, like, hey, do damage, all that kind of thing, where your opponent just kind of feels overwhelmed and they can't recover fast enough. Like, I have built quite a few nature decks like that, where it's just tempo damage is really good damage. 5 damage to 6 damage, especially if there's ways to spin it forward or restart it or whatever. You don't care if your opponent draws a card. I think we found this in Looper. You didn't care if your opponent drew a card if you killed them before they were able to use it. So having just a really heavy-hitting beast buff that doesn't require an ability is a really nice addition to nature. It's nothing that'll be like, oh, this is really strong. Like we have now the Putrid Behemoth in Dread, which is a really nice beast buff that when it comes into play, discard a card. And that's a beast buff that does 9 damage. You can utilize that thing by rotating it forward, restarting it, all that fun stuff. Like I said, it's already got Corvid Conspiracy. It's just a nice one for a more heavier hitting aspect. If someone runs very big walls, that Corvid Conspiracy is 3, 2, and 3, 2, and 2, all just kind of get mitigated and stuff like that. This one, you can't block the whole thing unless you have 2 walls up, essentially. I like it. Like I said, it's nothing going to be crazy. This card I can definitely see being more utilized in a like kill your opponent from 20 plus or health kind of nature deck, where you line it up, you get really nice action cards that spin stuff forward and do a massive amount of damage on one turn, and that's where this card is really going to shine, as opposed to cards like we already have in Beast or just in nature in general that do damage over time every turn in a more consistent way. This one is the heavy hitting, hey, I want to kill you from like 30. Here's the buff you want. Lush Behemoth, I think 3.5. It's a solid card. It's going to be seen a lot, but there's other cards that could compete with it that take up a better slot. So it's nice that we have that variation of animal cards. Next we have here is the Thorned Leg Scuttler. It's an insect card. It's an animal card. 3 damage. Increases by the number of elemental icons on top of the recipient's discard pile. An order icon counts as 1. I mean, if you guys have not listened to the Need More Buffs podcast, actually, no, I think we talk about this one in tomorrow's episode. I think tomorrow's episode is the one where we talk about this. I go on a fun little rant about insects and my not necessarily disappointment in them, but I would have hoped by now they would have really started to be fleshed out more than they are. Rocket Source has a sneak peek? Kinda. I mean, hopefully you listen to it tomorrow. I talk about this card in good detail of what I hope we would have gotten. Because this card to me, let's face it, it's a 1-star card. Let's face it. This card does nothing new for the insect family as a whole. On average, this is a 4 damage card. We look at cards like Feasting Mosquitoes. We look at the card it's a rare, no, not a rare, an uncommon, a blue typed. The Burrower, which is a 4 base attack card. We even have cards, I think, is Raider or is, what's the Mantix that's staying? That one that has to deal with your board of buffs. Is that the Raider? I think that one's staying. And that one is like, you really only lay it when your opponent has maybe 3 buffs on board, and that's base of 5, essentially. Thornleg Scuttler, first of all, starts with a really low of 3. We're starting to see about the average of 4 now. The average for damaging cards has been about 4 now. That has an added benefit to it that can be increased in some way. Unless your opponent lays a 4-cost combo, which then turns this into a 7 damage attack, which, by the way, there's a lot of cards out there that just on average do like 6. No bonus. Yeah, you'll take 2, which is a lot easier to take than hoping your opponent plays a 4-cost combo. And the thing is, like, your opponent, unless it's a combo buff, which you can then remove the combo buff and then lay Thornleg Scuttler to get that 7 damage in. If your opponent lays a 4-cost combo, your thought is not going to be, yeah, let's go on the offensive. It's going to be, hey, he laid that. He's probably going to kill me next turn or something like that. Like, you're not going to lay Raising the Dead if your opponent has lethal on board. You're not going to lay, other cards. I know Wrath of the Mountains rotating out, but you're not going to do that if your opponent's going to kill you next turn. You're going to find a way to survive. It's not good. It's really not good. We saw cards that dealt with your opponent's top card of the deck with their icons in the the Sipid Spawner that milled your opponent. And I tried so hard to get that card to work for like a self-mill type of thing, and it just didn't. It hurt me too much to a detriment. That having this card just be a 4 damaging attack card on base value alone, it can't even be just 3 if your opponent plays a lot of unaligned cards. Like, oh, I Umbra Barkeep my second action, so I have less cards than you. This is now a 3 damaging attack card. I'd rather just run the Burrower, which is a 4 damaging attack card, because it's just better flat out. The Thornleg Scuttler, like, yes, there are a few cards that Insects got that I'm super happy about. I'm super excited Insects got a few nice cards to help them along. This card does nothing. It's a pack filler. It does nothing for the Insect order, for nature alone. It's probably never going to be seen, especially over the other really good animal attack cards that we have. It's kind of like Creeble Pyromancers. Yeah, I mean, if your opponent lays a combo, it does 6. That's what it's like 3 damage, and then if your opponent laid a combo, then last turn it does 3 more. One sec, my girlfriend is buying laundry detergent. She wants to know my opinion on the brand, so I apologize for going on my rant, but okay. But yeah, Thornleg Scuttler, it's just, you look at this. I want to pull the database up. I'm going to pull the database up. We'll just look through all the animal attack cards that we're keeping, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're actually keeping quite a bit. But, like, my gut instinct alone is telling me so yeah, let's look at this. The Duskbloom Burrower, insect damage, 4 base damage, right? 4 base damage. Can be increased to 8 if your opponent's deck is empty. First of all, that card, I have so many problems with that card for insects alone. So many. It's just one of those Mondays. Exactly, Christian. Feasting Skeetos is actually a really strong insect card. I think I gave it a bad review in Kindred. I was just like, when's your opponent going to have less than 7? Then the game changed to be more of a tempo meta control where it wasn't aggro all the time. But yeah, this is baseline 4 damage with 3 healing. That's on average pretty easy to get. So this is a 7-point swing on a card. Infected Wasp is 3, but if your opponent has 2 buffs out, this is baseline 5, right? It's baseline 5. Leaf Spine Hunter, I mean, it's 3, but it's you potentially, if your opponent's playing an Abyss deck, you call Elemental. Your opponent's playing Creeble, you call Creeble. Like, right now, Workers Nest tonight, hopefully I'll be on later. Wrangler, no problem, man, no problem. You do what you got to do, and then maybe stop back. I'll be here for a while. I plan on probably going live until this whole set's done, and I got everything to cover still. I still got the Mythics and the Hybrid cards, so I'm probably going till 10, like no lies. But Leaf Spine Hunter is 3 damage, which I have a feeling this card is actually going to see a lot more play now when Uprising comes out, when all of Awakening gets moved out, and people are really starting to play more family-oriented decks. Because yeah, if you're playing the Abyss deck, you're calling Elemental to kill the Abyss cards, or you're maybe calling Undead to kill Necro Dreadlings. If you're playing against Undead, you're going to call Undead. If you're playing against the Chimchu, you're going to call Chimchu. And hopefully just mill them for 2. Like, just any 2, hopefully you get it. And if not, you at least know what their next 2 cards are. That's information. We've already discussed looking at your opponent's hand, getting information. That's good. Information is always good in this game, no matter where it comes from. That this card is probably going to see a lot more play in the future. And then we have a card that was just Oakthorn Raider, which, like, was never seen. And I bet you even this card will be seen more often than the Thornleg Scuttler. I bet you just on the... Oh, wrong one. Whoops. Where... Don't hit the X button. Hit the other button that's not X. That the Oakthorn Rider, this one is going to see more, because as you look at it, if you look at this right now, all the animal attack cards we have, insect. Like, if you're running this for insect attacks, you already have 3 really good ones right here. Like, if you're trying to run Stampede in a deck, my guess is you're not going all attack. You're probably laying some insect buffs to go along with maybe some insect attacks, like I did for my Stampede deck. Oakthorn Raider, like, it's 3, yes, But then if you are making like a hybrid nature deck, you can run beasts, you can run undead now, you can run insects, and this is now 6 damage. Pretty easy to get in that certain type of deck. This card completely, once again, relies on your opponent. Sorry, guys. When you're relying on your opponent, 100% of the time to get value out of this card, as opposed to like just them drawing cards, their hand size is actually a lot easier to control than their graveyard, right? Unless you have buff removal. And nature's not really known for having a lot of buff removal. They're the weakest. Like, by far. So, like, Thornleg Scuttler, I just don't see this being used. I really don't. It's going to go the same route as the Sipit Spawner, where because you have to rely on your top card of your opponent's discard pile, like, maybe it's good against Storm if you're playing a lot of Storm, but I could almost guarantee you if you're like, yeah, I'll get 7 damage on Storm because they have a 4-cost combo on the top card of their discard pile. You're at like 2 because they combo chained off about at least 3 or 4 times. Like, you'd have to build a specific deck against Storm because Storm, I feel like right now, is going to blow up with how its combo synergy's going. You're worried about their board, not their combo they laid, and dealing 7 damage is not as impactful as them playing a 4-cost combo or having it be like rotated out the turn after. And even if it is rotated out, they can lay a card to put it on top and negate this whole Thornleg Scuttler. Like, it's so difficult to control and get benefit out of this. I'm giving it a 1-star, and I cannot see how I'm wrong on this, but if I am, please someone send me a clip and be like, dude, this is actually like a 4-star card. I would love to see it, but right now, it's not the direction I want insects to be. I want insects to have something to do with the graveyard, kind of how undead is, or have to deal with your own deck size. So it's a self-mill. That's what I think insects should go into to kind of be its own unique thing, really define their family as an order. But this is too difficult to do. This is way too difficult to do. Mossfoot Shimmer Rider. I love this card. First of all, this card is so good. It's X5. It's a really quick hitting card. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, 3 of them go back to the deck. Otherwise, it's 5 damage. This is one of those cards that is so versatile and used in so many situations. This is like a 4-star card. This is a 4-star card for nature. Because it's either you're playing against aggro, they have no hand, you're going to keep up pace with them with a 5-card buff for the next turn. It essentially turns into like somewhat of a Draga Scorcher, but at the same time, Draga Scorcher against heavy control, like 6 damage to them is like, okay, I'll just Boulder Feast and I'm fine. But if you're playing heavy control, this isn't 5 damage to them. It's 3 cards go away from their hand. That could have been like combo payments. It could have been some defense or healing, and they have to choose, okay, which stuff do I want to keep? It's really detrimental to do that to your opponent. And nature probably has one of the easiest ways to keep your opponent's hand size very manipulated. It's got the Ashwood Divas. We just saw the Lush Lost Behemoth that can add a card to your opponent's hand twice. So it's really easy to kind of get your opponent thinking like, is it worth having a large size hand, or should I take 5 damage? Because it is 8. Like 8 cards is a pretty high number to have on the cusp, which is why like Crushing Charger was only used against like really heavy combo decks to really mitigate them and stuff like that. But just being able to set your opponent back essentially like a turn and a half if they spent 2 turns drawing those 2 cards or any other way like that, that's good. That's still tempo. Or 5 damage. That's still tempo. I think I also said in the podcast before, this is one of those cards where like it's a card where it makes your opponent think. Because they can be on 6 cards in hand, and they're like, okay, here's the thing. Am I at low health? Is it worth taking 5 damage and going low next turn to have a proactive turn? Or do I draw 2 cards, do nothing this turn, and then have to move 3 cards back just so I don't take 5 damage? Like, this is one of those really interesting cards that comes out of Play Fusion now, where it's a card that you lay, but then your opponent decides, like, how they're going to let it affect them, which is really interesting. It's not just like, hey, I Draga Scorcher, like, okay, I got to prevent, like, 6 damage next turn. It's going to hit me for 6. Or I got to remove it. No. You don't have to remove it. it's a choose one or the other for your opponent. And it's really interesting to see it that way. It's really interesting to think about this card that way, where it's just, okay, what does your opponent want? And for just knowing that your opponent, like, if they didn't want to take the 5 damage, what does that mean for their hand? Does that mean their hand is bad and they don't care about what stuff they move? Am I potentially would I have had lethal if this would have dealt 5 to them? Are they on the cusp of trying to win? Did they not have lethal last turn? Did they not have a really good reason to keep pushing on me to let me do 5 damage to them? All of this stuff, if you play this card in a deck and you start using the deck, you start to look at your opponent's position of how they're playing, really gets you thinking about, like, okay, why did they do that as opposed to something else? Then, of course, you could just be playing aggro and they have 3 cards in their hand and they're going to take 5 regardless. Like, it's one of those nice things. Bonus added, it's a Creeble. There's so many things to do with Creebles right now. It's amazing. Mossfoot Shimmer Rider is a 4-star card. This is going to be seen quite a lot, if not just be a 1-turn 5 damage hit for, like, just to keep up with aggro. When nature's always been really cyclical on their damage, like 3 at most, then 2, then 1, like it just really chip damage. This is one really quick impact on the board. Just, it's something nature's never had before, and giving them this utility is really nice. I like it a lot. Mossfoot Beast Tamer. All right, guys, if you didn't have your banners up, your diving scores already, this is a 5-star card. I know I'm holding up 10, but I just want to express how doubly awesome this 5-star card is to you. Mossfoot Beast Tamer is a Creeble card, right? Creeble card, boom. It's a defend card. Not a lot of cards out there stop defense outside of the Chimchu one, which you actually might be seeing more of, depending on how strong the defenses are getting and stuff like that. But this card lets you rotate one beast buff 1 step forward and then restart it. And if you guys aren't already on the mindset of nature, of how I said with, oh yeah, Lush Lost Behemoth, it's going to be one of those cards where you hit your opponent really large and then, really fun stuff. This is 11 damage in 1 turn and then to restart it. Sure, they draw 2 cards, but if you hit them for 11, in 1 turn with 1 action card and you can't kill them, like in the deck you're building, which is really heavy hitting, nature should be able to finish them off after that. Like a Vine Lash timed really right too. Now on the other foot, that's for aggro, right? That's for aggro. This Vicious Scale Fang is another one. You can rotate it to the 4, then restart it for 2. That's 6 damage off Mossfoot Beast Tamer. That's really good just for aggro. Keep your beasts buffed on board. Let's look at another nice little beast buff that I think everyone is very familiar with for a control aspect. Guys, did you know Thunderslug is a beast buff? What? You're right. Lay a Thunderslug, remove 1 buff. Mossfoot Beast Tamer, rotate that thing to its 2nd corner. Remove 2 more. But it's not rotated out. It's restarted to then remove a 4th buff in 1 turn with 2 action cards. Why is that allowed? Oh my word. Removing 4 buffs with 2 action cards, and then next turn, if they don't remove Thunderslug, you get to remove 2 more buffs. Like, that combination is going to kill Dread. It's going to kill any buff-heavy deck that, like, the control deck is still going to be Storm with some animals splashed in, right? Like, that's ridiculous. Or it's going to be Nature now because it has the Ashwood Nurture that can search for beast cards with air splashed in to lay some of the beast air cards. It's just, why? Like, first of all, why? The fact that buff removal belongs to a family, especially a beast family, is ridiculously good. Beasts are some of the strongest families, strongest synergistic cards that we have right now. If they're not going to make every buff removal its own separate family, then I don't think they should have a family. That's my opinion. Swift Pyre is not an elemental, and it's clearly an elemental on board. Crystal Leech and Thunderslug are both beasts. Reckless Spirit is an undead, but the new tech one is not a family one. Pathfinder is not part of a family, and Shadow Puppet is not part of a family. 3 of our 6 belong to a family, and 2 of them belong to the Beast family, which in my opinion, Beasts has some of the best synergistic cards that is really good for them. It has Family Search, it has the Ashwood Nurture in Nature. Now it has Mossfoot Beast Tamer to rotate those things forward. Like, Nature is going to be ridiculous when it comes to control. You run Crystal and Air in that thing, you can search for Crystal Leeches, you can search for Thunderslugs, rotate them forward. Like, Nature, I think, might become one of the newest stall decks. which is really difficult to say that with, but it looks like it. Like, it looks like it's going to be really good at stalling out your opponent or being majorly heavy on the control. And then it's always had the OTK combos with Vine Lash, with Treetop Tribunal, all those things that just hit your opponent for more than half their health in one turn. Like, Nature is going to be super good. Super good. And it's literally because this card allows it to have that 4 buff removal 1-turn swing. Like, without it, maybe not. Maybe you just run them for the Crystal Leeches and Thunderslugs and all that stuff, and you try to be somewhat control. But 4 buffs. 4 buffs. Think about this. Think about you're playing Nature, or you're playing Nature this deck, and you're going against an Undead deck. Or you're going against an Undead deck. You Reckless Spirit. You do all this stuff. You control them for a little bit on the board. Then your opponent lays Raising the Dead. Boom. 4 Undead buffs back. They're like, yeah, I just laid a 4-cost combo. You lay 2 action cards and negate that entire combo indefinitely. You negate it indefinitely with 2 action cards off their 4-cost combo. What? Like, what? No. Because of that, that's going to be the new bane of existence in Lightseekers now, is this and Thunderslug. It doesn't matter if you're running Aggro Nature. It's fine if you do, but it will never come close to Control Nature with Thunderslug and Mosswood Beast Tamer. That's a 5-star card, and you can yell at me or tell me all I'm wrong no matter what you think. But this card goes in every single Beast deck, every single Aggro, Control, even mid-range deck that has Beasts. You're gonna crush it. You're gonna crush it. You play this in a Nature deck. You have the Flaremane Prowler out. Okay, I'll rotate that to its last corner for 5. I get an additional action. Restart it. Cool, I just did 5 damage to you and have 2 actions. That's still good. That's still really good. Like, and it's a Creeble card, so you can look for it with the Creeble searches that we all have now. Put this in Dread with the Putrid Behemoth. Because Dread has a lot of Creeble searches right now, doesn't it? Yes, it does. And it's an animal, so you can even put the Ashwood Nurturer to search for the Beast cards. Discard it with the Behemoth. Rotate this, it'll do X3, then rotate 3. You can even just rotate it once, then restart it to get 3/3/3 on your opponent. It has the Draga Hunter in Poison now. Like, this card goes in every single Beast deck, no matter what order you're playing, just to be able to get benefit, even off of one Beast buff. Off of one specific Beast buff, this is worth running. This is worth running. This is so good. This is so good. Now for the Animal Forest Wind Mythic Hero. Don't even say things like that. Jovi, no. But that's a 5-star card. That's a 5-star card. Bramble Spike Caretaker. I love Forest, first of all. If you guys didn't catch my stream last week when I was playing Forest buffs, dude, it's an amazing deck. Check it out. I love the thing so much. Bramble Spike Caretaker. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Kind of sounds like an Astro card, doesn't it? Kind of sounds like a Moonlight Burrower or a Sunhunter Tuktu or anything Astral does, but it's in Nature now. All right, you may look for an action buff from among them and put it into play. What? Hold on. What? So, and then you can put them back in the same order, or just heal for 3. So, first of all, we have a mini spike healing in Nature. Nature has never had a mini spike healing outside of Spore Feeder, which is now being rotated out. The only big heals that we have in Nature, I think, are Stumpdrift Shaman, and that's it. Like, unless it's a buff that has an ability on it, because even Flower Garden's getting kicked out. We have the Fungal Spore, or whatever, the XX22, which can heal you for 2. Then 3rd and 4th turn, we don't have a spike healing in Nature. Now we do for 3, which is fine. It's fine. If we're getting consistent heals off of Stumper Shamans and all that stuff. Sorry guys. A 3 base healing is fine. You're almost never going to use this for the heal though. First of all, no matter what, you get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You get the next 2 turns essentially for free right there. If one of them is an action buff, say oh man, I really wish I had a Monstrous Defender. Oh man, I really wish I had a Vicious Scale Fang or something like that, where I need 2 damage or something like that. I need a specific buff. Top 4 cards. Is one of them an action buff? Yeah. Slam that thing in for free. Why not, right? Then you get to look at put them back in the same order, so you know you're drawing the next 3 cards. The Bramble Spike Caretaker is like a 4-star card. This is amazingly good. It's nothing that it's gonna I can't even say it. It's really good. It's just really good. This also moves it into play, which negates the fact that you can lay two cards of the same name in the same turn. Because if you lay like say a Monstrous Defender, then you Bramblespike Caretaker, you move the Bramblespike Caretaker into play. It doesn't say you may play it. It says you move it into play. You get to lay two of the same named buffs in one turn. That's really good. That's really good. This is going to help in, heck, a lot of decks. Because it's not a specific nature buff. It's just an action buff. So like this is good in aggro where you want to get a certain buff out. This is good in control. Think about this. With Bramblespike Caretaker, many people are probably going to be running a more aggressive style of oh god, I can't think of the name. Overseer Tuskrage. He runs forests. You want to play a lot more really fun explosive buffs or time buffs or anything buff-wise. Bramblespike Caretaker is a really good card for him. Really good card for him. Look at it. It's like, oh, hey, I want this explosive buff. Put that into play. Cool. Now what are you going to do? I got a specific buff at the top 4. I was looking for it. It's really good. It's really good. This card's a 4-star card. It's going to be seen a lot of play in and out of nature. The only limitation is an action buff. And it's one of the reasons why Sicario got nerfed from move to play is because you can move two buffs of the same name into play in the same turn. That right there bumps it up from like just a 3 where it's like, yeah, it's a good card. You're going to get a lot of information out of it. It's going to be seen a lot. It's going to be seen. It's a 4-star card. It's nothing that's going to like bring an OTK. It's nothing that you build a deck around. Those are the 5-star slots. Those are the ones that like you legitimately build a deck around this card. This is what's going to make the deck good. Those are like what I belong to 5 stars. 4 stars is just like this card is really good. Like I probably should have gave some cards last week 4 stars. Now I'm looking at it where it's like, no, they don't break the game. They're just really good and going to be seen everywhere. This is exactly what a card like that. Maybe even like the 4.5. We'll go 4.5 because this card is good and it's going to be seen everywhere. It's not quite 5-star where it's a deck building around it, but because it's seen outside of nature, that gives it the 4.5. Going to be seen in every nature deck? It can fit into almost every nature deck, but can it be utilized equally as well outside of nature? And that is a yes. That is why it gets a 4.5. Fresh, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. It gets up there, the 4.5. 4, I would have said 4 if it was just in nature, but no, this thing can be utilized anywhere. Anywhere outside of nature, inside of nature. That's what gets the 4.5. Where it's a good card, you're going to include it in a lot of decks. Moonlight Burrower was included in a lot of decks. If you just had Lunar, you toss that thing in there, look at the top 4 cards, sometimes just regardless. And not only drew a card, this puts an action buff into play. And the way the decks are going right now, especially now that Crazed Bomber's getting the axe, buffs are going to be really common. Buffs are going to be a lot more fun to play. And putting them into play for free, or at least moving them into play, dude, yes, I would love to do that. Bramblespike Caretaker, this is a good card. This is a good card. These kind of cards shouldn't be common. These kind of cards should be like uncommon. Okay? This was a good one for a common. This is good for common because this is almost never going to be seen play. This gets like an uncommon slot. That's the power level that is. That's good. Leafweb Wanderer. First of all, it's an insect, but when you play an insectoid attack card, gain rotation, healing, and draw 1 card. Especially with Duskblade Tome. Yeah, exactly, Jovi. Tome is probably the number 2 or number 3 item that's most commonly equipped in every deck outside of Crystal Core. It's nature. You're going to run it with nature. Why not? Leafweb Wanderer. It's an insect that relies on insects. Awesome. This is a card that I love for insect support. When you play an insectoid attack card, gain rotation, healing, and draw 1 card. This is where I said it's like, okay, maybe if you're running a whole lot of insect attack cards, but let's face it, there's only 2 corners. You only need 2 insect attack cards. There's a lot of cards in the nature family that allows for graveyard recursion, especially with animal cards and insect cards. This card's good. It's good for an insect order. It's what insects kind of needed to really keep up the tempo base. Because I believe when I played my insect deck, when I had Hive Mind out, I won those games. I was able to keep up tempo. It's like a mini Hive Mind. When you play an insect card, you gain 2 health and you draw a card. But it's not an action card. And you get to do it for the next 2 turns. Hive Mind, I found out if I had Hive Mind out for 2 turns and I was able to just get really good benefit out of it, that's good. That's all I really needed it for, was like 2 turns. Yeah, it was really good if I got like 4 cards off of it, but I didn't need it. Just being able to lay a card and get a card back with a little bit of micro heal. Mind you, I think Hive Mind was 2 damage as opposed to 2 healing. But like, Leafweb Wanderer is just good. Mind you, in insects, there's a lot more insect buffs than there are insect attack cards. So like I said, you don't really need to include a whole lot. And we now have 4 to choose from. 1 is really bad. 1 is never going to get increased past 4. So just running 3 and 3 of those cards. Yeah, Leafweb Wander. It's especially one of those, like, it's more of a tempo insect deck, right? You're not going to run this into control. You're not going to run it anywhere else when you need to get the card draw. You need to get it out. You're going to lay this and then get 1 or 2 attacks off. And if not, you're going to lay it and you get 1 attack off. And you're like, okay, cool. But guess what? You have Spirit Walk. You have, if you're playing Hive Bark, you get 5 nature cards back in your deck. This is even a later game card to get 2 healing and 1 and draw a card. This is good. This is what insects needed. I think it's a 3.5. Leafweb Wander, it fits really nice into the insect family. It only works on attacks. It's not like, hey, whenever you lay an insect card, you get the major benefit. No, it has to be attacks, which means you're going to be running some of those insect attack cards and not just go a wide board full on buffs. It's a forest buff. I love it. It's an insect card in its own right. Really good. It's the card that insects needed to be able to keep and maintain tempo. And let's also not forget that card draw is card draw. Card draw is card draw. Specific family card draw means this cannot be really utilized anywhere else. But card draw is card draw, guys. Yeah, you're going to run this. You're going to love it. Card draw is card draw. Leafweb Wanderer. I think this is a great card. And if anything, you want to run Poison, Mantic Spitters. There's an attack card for 5. Cool. I'll take it. Leafweb Wanderer. I like it. I like it a lot. Mossfoot Gardener. 4 healing. Once again, another kind of spike healing. And it's a creeple card, which is really easily searched for. 4 healing. Select a hero. Swap the position of the buffs on the board. What? Guys, this is a freaking powerful card. This is 5-star all around. This does not limit you on which player you do it to. This card does not say, hey, you can swap your buffs around. If it did, this would still be a 4-star card. Because Nature alone is the set that really utilizes board position the most. It utilizes it with its locations. It's the Sipid. I'm really bad with card names. The one that's like, if a buff expires next to this one, you get a benefit to it. This card crushes it in Nature in so many ways. Let's not also forget that this one action card breaks Obfuscation. A 4-cost combo completely ruined by one action card. Why? Like, what? That's how you can also compare the power level. Is okay. What is the best way this card can be played? And you're like, oh, probably like the best way to stop someone like offensively, Obfuscation. It moves them around. It doesn't return them. It doesn't remove them. It moves their positioning around. Obfuscation is a 4-cost combo that we're seeing a lot of, especially with the rise of Magrock, where it utilizes locking in like a tentacle or a steadfast beacon. You slam that thing down, you lay one Mossfoot Gardener, people are going to be splashing this in. It's Nature, it's Forest, it's a Duskblade Tome, awesome, amazing card. Yeah, you're going to run in at least one Mossfoot Gardener, if not just in your side deck, to run against Magrock and mess them up entirely. You're like, yeah, I got an Abyss Tentacle in. Yeah, I got a Steadfast Beacon locked in behind Obfuscation. And for some reason, you will also allow me to have Shroud of Night, which is getting rotated out, so I shouldn't have said that anyway. But it's like, yeah, you can't do that. It's like it's a defend card. I'm going to move those buffs around, and Obfuscation now is a 4-cost combo that just sits on the board at the very far left of your buff board and does nothing. It does nothing. Yeah. You know your 4-cost combo that was essentially going to win you the game because I couldn't touch it? Guess what? I just did. And now that 4-cost combo is a cardboard paper that you can look at and cry into. You can't even use it for Kleenex, so you can't pick it up and remove it on the board because you cannot remove Obfuscation. You got to look at it. You gotta cry over it. You literally have to lean over the table and cry onto that card, and that's all it does is catch your tears of sadness. Mind you, then again, if that person's also running a Duskblade Tome, they're going to run one of those and fix that from the board swap. But it's going to feel really good when you do it to them and be like, yeah, I'm going to Mosswork Gardener, then remove those 2 buffs that you had Obfuscation behind. And they're just going to be like, oh, why? And you're like, yeah. Mosswork Gardener. Again, it's a Creeble card. Can be searched with all the fun Creeble searches that we're getting. 4 healing. 4 healing is probably the most we're going to see nature get for right now until we get just a base healing card. So that's really good on its own. This is so good. So good. Let's not even mention, and we'll get to it later down below this one is the Mossfoot in the Soul. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of cards in nature that just rely on the way your board state is set up, what expires at the certain rotations times. I think this card is actually going to be really fun in a meme deck with Hibernating Agama. That card is probably never seen right now, and I even tried to meme it, and it still didn't work. Where at the end of your turn it deals 7, and if there's a buff to the right of this buff, you essentially eat it, and you restart Hibernating Agama. With this card, you don't have to throw down a fresh buff. You can move your buffs around. It's like, oh, this buff's already expired. It's going to like leave play next turn. Let's just have Hibernating Agama stick around. Like this one card also is going to make another rare buff more viable to play. Like that's just really good. That's really good. This has so many uses. All because it says select a hero. If this just read, defend, swap the positions of any number of buffs on you control, it would still be good. It would still be a 4-star card. But because you literally get to select a hero, you could just mess your opponent up. This card is going to break games. This is going to break so many games, and it's going to be so much fun. Rootglade Grotto. Instead of discarding, store Creeble cards under this card. I think this is like the 3rd store Creeble buff that we've had. The Sorceress in Dread, the Road 202 Game Break Not Found, the stores Creebles, and now this one, the Rootglade Grotto, stores it. Instead, store Creeble cards under this card. When a card is stored, rotate this 1 step forward. When this buff expires, for each card, deal 1 damage to target and heal yourself for 2. I'm going to say 3-star. Actually, no, I'm going to say 2-star. I'm going to say 2-star. Because at the end of the day, if you store 3 Creeble cards to get 3 damage and 6 healing, and a lot of the Creeble cards we've been seeing now are buffs, they have to rotate out really quick. Mind you, we are seeing some Creeble cards, well, I guess that's a defend card. This one rotates out in 1 turn. And we do have Mossfoot Beastdam, which is a Creeble action card. So Creeble cards like lane Creeble cards might actually be a lot more viable, like quick pace than just all the buffs we've been seeing. But 3 damage and 6 healing. This is the kind of card that I would also love to see say, hey, those Creeble cards also come back to your hand after it expires. Yeah. Then this card would be really good. But Rootglade Grotto as it is, like, okay, sure. The only way I see this somewhat being better is if you're running a very memey nature deck that does a whole lot of buff restarts, right? It does a whole lot of buff restarts. It runs the Spineback Stockjaw that allows you to restart a buff, so you can just keep starting Creeble cards under this. But like if you restart it too much, this is immediate buff removal bait, which means that like you better time it right where your opponent doesn't have buff removal. Can chain this one with that 1 Tree Whispers. Tree Whispers? No, you're absolutely right. You can chain it with that. You just have to time it right because you can't rotate it out. So, like, you can keep it in there and doing this stuff, and then your opponent kills it. And you're like, oh, it's... No. But, I mean, there's a lot of potential with this card. I'm saying on average, there's a lot of other nature cards we've got that I'm going to run over this card. Even in a Creeble deck, I'm probably not running this buff over the other 2 Creeble buffs that store cards under it over Rootglade Grotto. Like I said, unless you build like a Rootglade Grotto specific Creeble deck in nature, to really benefit restarting this buff, storing more Creeble cards than your opponent can handle, and killing them with what, 5 damage and 10 healing? Like, it's not even one of those like kill shot cards where the damage is actually really good. It's 1 damage per card, 2 healing. This card reads way more defensive, and in which case you don't want to build a deck around a defensive card. You want to build a deck around a card that kills your opponent. If it was swapped around and dealt 2 damage for 1 card for each card and 1 healing for each card, yeah, this would be really good. I'll take 6 damage and 3 healing after 3 cards. I'll do that any day of the week. But because it's more of a defensive card, not even a meme deck with this card will be good because it literally can't kill your opponent. You can try and super meme this, maybe get like 8 cards under there, but it's still only 8 damage. Guess what? Route 202 with 2 cards is 7 damage. And those cards come back to your hand. Like, you can't really compare the two. It's a very meme buff. I get what they're trying to do. I understand it. But because it is not impactful in an advanced way on the board, and all your creeple cards that you're probably discarding and doing stuff with are going to be getting you to a lethal range, like the one that rotates your beast buffs forward and spins them. That's can be more of an aggressive style. The one that's just X5 can be played as an aggressive style for 5 damage. We're seeing a lot of creeple cards that just do really efficient things in a somewhat like very strong and impactful way on the board. That putting them under there and then having them all do like 3 damage and 6 healing. Now that we actually have healing cards in nature, Frustrated, have a good night, man. Thank you for stopping by. Now that we're having cards that actually give us 3 healing or 4 healing, we already have Stumpdrift Shaman, which is 7 healing in 3 corners. That's already better than this, which is, if it's just 3 corners, it's 6 healing. It's just... No, Jovi, it's not separate hits. Oh, wait, maybe it is. I'd have to... No, I don't think it is, because it's for each card stored, not, like... I want to say I'm 95% sure that it is not separate hits. I want to say it's all 1 hit. Because the way it reads this way is also the way kind of the nature. Maybe I can find it here. It's the nature buff. That was an animal that was it soul? Might have been soul. The feral spirit. Increase the number by the cards stored under it. By the number of cards stored. This for each card stored. No, it even has different wording. I still want to say it's only 1 hit. Yeah, they do usually specify separate hits. They have been separate specifying it. I want to say it's all 1 hit. If it was separate hits, then I would reevaluate this card, because then you could do things like Citadel Musician and all this fun stuff that nature does to increase the damage to it. Yeah, Electric Hail is an example of that, where it's 2 separate hits of 1, where it says separate hits on it. Rootglade Grotto, I think, is just going to hit him for 1. And like I said, because the damage and healing is flopped around, where this is literally a defensive buff, it's not good. I wish this was 6 damage and 3 healing. I wish the healing and damage were flipped, because then I could see this card being a little more viable. Like I said, we're already getting a 4 damage base healing card and a 3 damage base healing card in Forest. We don't want another buff that competes with Stumpdrift Shaman to get us healing that requires us to lay Creeble cards. And even if we do go full meme to restart it, it goes back to the first corner. Then we have to lay 3 more Creeble cards to even get the full effect. We can't just use an ability and retire it whenever we want. Or I think I reached a good quota. I think I'll use the defend ability now, trigger it whenever I feel like it. You have to get this buff to expire to be able to get any benefit off of it. That's a lot more difficult to do, especially if you're trying to restart it and get more and more benefit off of it. Because then you're just giving your opponent more and more turns to remove it. Yeah, it's a 2-star card. It might even be less than that, maybe like a 1.5. But I don't know, Creebles, we could just see a really strong Uprising in Creeble. Uprising, Creeble. that it's really hard to gauge that, which is what I'm technically trying to do right now. No, I'm going to even lower it. I'm going to lower it to a 1.5. I'm going to lower it to a 1.5 from a 2 because I honestly don't think, outside of that super meme, this card will see play over a lot of the other good nature cards that we're getting, or even just a lot of the current forest buffs that we have. Why remove a 3 damaging card? Yeah. Like, and that's the thing, like, why remove it when it does 3 damage? Sure. Then if they restart it and try and put 3 more into there so it's 6 damage, like, by that time, 6 damage isn't going to matter. It's more of, like, you kill it. It's more of you kill it at that time so your opponent doesn't get a huge spike heal. Like, that's where you remove it more so your opponent doesn't heal for so much. It almost becomes like you remove it so that your opponent doesn't get, like, a guard snail. Guard snail is a really good example to compare this to because it's like the healing is more important. And after a while, if you can get a really big spike heal, then your opponent's like, all right, maybe I should remove this Rookblade Grotto so I don't just kill him all over again. Like, but once again, it's not it's going to happen in 4 turns. You have to have the Creeble cards to put under it. There's no other way that you can expire this all on your own for any other random card. It's 6 cards for basically combo healing. Yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, I don't think this card is going to see play, and even if it is going to see play, I don't think it'll be impactful enough, especially the way the game is going with a lot more, buff damage, cyclical damage, and if Abyss Tentacles does not get nerfed, there's always the thing of infinite damage, where a big spike heal isn't going to mean nothing to people who can do over 100 plus damage, or I should say infinite damage with a deck, because you don't have enough buff removal to deal with Tentacles. Putting that out there. But yeah, Rookblade Grotto, I want to say it's a 1.5. The only reason I'm giving it the 0.5 is because I have no idea how strong Creebles are going to be in this next set, but because it's so defensive. It's not a card that wins you a game. It's a card that you have minimal control over when it goes off, and it's not as impactful as some of the other ones. It's just when you chain 3 of them together, like 3 Grottos out, does a stored? Yeah, no, they do. Yeah, I mean, I guess. You could put 3 Grottos out and somehow lay 3 Creeble cards in 1 turn and get, what would that be? 9 damage and 18 healing? That's true, Casilia. That's very true. But once again, that feels like a very meme style deck. And it's only 9 damage. It's not a meme style that wins you a game. It could be fun. It could be fun. And actually, S-Darbs, they would not have to be staggered rotations. They would not actually have to be. Because you Rookblade Grotto, you put them all, they're all on the first corners. You put 3 Creeble cards under the first one. So there's 3 under there. It expires. Those 3 go into the next one, which then causes all 3 corners to rotate and expire that one. Then those same 3 go onto the next one and expire that one too. So they actually could be all in the same corner. They all on the same corner. Oh, Casilia, me and you were on the same boat. You were on the same boat paddling up, whatever creek or river we want to do. I am all about the memes. But it's more of a defensive meme than a offensive meme. And I hate Mill. I hate Stall. Sorry, Mill is fine. Stall I hate. Stall I hate. So if it's a meme for Stall, no. Stall doesn't need a meme. Memes should be game winning, not game stalling. But yeah, Rookblade Grotto, I don't see it. I don't see it. Exactly. They rotate when they're stored. They rotate when they're stored, not when they're played. Yeah, exactly. But it's just, no, it's a 1.5 to me. Only it could be a 1, but I don't know. I don't know how strong the Creebles are going to be, and maybe it's worth it. But even if it is, I'll run an all nature deck and splash in Earth so I can run Road 202. That's the Creeble deck that's going to do well. Not a Rookblade Grotto Creeble deck. No, not a long shot. Mossfoot Tribe Rider. All right. Rocket Star, your idea for the Grotto? Hold on. Put it in a forest buff deck and just have it stay on board. Yeah, I think someone said put it in the Tree Whispers deck that I did. And I was like, yeah, that totally works. If I had a way to expire it whenever I wanted. It's like if there was literally a defendability that said expire this buff, heal and deal damage for the amount of creepables you store, that'd be a lot better. But because you legitimately have to expire the buff to get it, it could be sitting on the last corner and you could be out of creeple cards in your deck and you're never going to get the benefit from that card. You're never going to find it because you are out of creeple cards and you cannot expire that buff. It's the condition to get it is so difficult to meet. If it had an ability trigger on it to get it to expire it early, yeah, that card would be a lot more viable, I think. But you can't, because if they remove it, it's not expiring it; it's removing it, and you have to expire it. It's just like, why? Why do I have to expire this thing? All right, onto the soul. We have the Mossfoot Tribe Rider. Mossfoot Tribe Rider is 2/2 and 2 creeple card. Love it already. Defendability. Healing, if there's a forest buff next to this one, increase it by 1. Damage to your target, if there's an animal buff next to this one, increase it by 2. I love this card. I want to say this is a 4-star card. The reason it's a 4-star card is because first of all, it's a defendability that minimally does 2 damage and 2 healing on each corner. Minimally. That's a 4-point swing on each defendability. I look at this and it's a oh god, where are we when it comes to buffs? It's a dread one. I bet you guys know exactly which one I'm talking about. I look at this as a Gorge Stalker. I look at it exactly as a Gorge Stalker, except instead of an attack ability, it's a defendability. And you don't have a limited amount of turns before you can use it because it's clunky cornered. You can use it whenever you feel like you need it. You can wait and have this thing be, when you need to heal or when you need to deal damage. Because we just saw a forest card that allowed you to manipulate your entire board, you can put this thing next to buffs really easily and get the 3 damage and 4 healing. 3 healing and 4 damage off of it for 3 corners in a row. Mind you, this requires forest and animal. Guys, do you guys know a very common combo that's both forest and animal? It's a combo buff that cannot be removed or returned called Treetop Tribunal. Just go ahead and say that right there. This card, because of Treetop Tribunal, put this one next to it because it doesn't say action buff, or because it doesn't say it has to be one on the other side, one on the other, not surrounded by them. You put this next to a Treetop Tribunal that cannot be removed, cannot be returned. This thing already becomes a 4 damage, 3 healing defendability that your opponent goes, okay, here's my options. I defend to keep that Treetop Tribunal from hitting me for 16 and allow that Mossfoot Tribe Rider to hit me for 4 and 3 healing. Or I don't heal, or I don't defend, and I let that Treetop Tribunal hit me for 16, so that thing is not sitting next to a buff that amplifies both of it. That's alone why this card is good. That's alone. No, Treetop Tribunal can't be removed either. It can't be returned and it can't be removed. The only way to stop it is to like Mari Bard it and remove it or do something like that, or to defend and turn it back corners. In which case you do, Mossfoot Tribe Rider is still sitting next to a buff on board that's both forest and animal. Also, if you guys didn't like, it's a defendability. Which a card that I am falling more and more in love with, but I have not found a lot of uses out of yet, is what is it? It's an animal card. It's an insect card. And it's a defend card. The Mantix Weaver. All right, I'll find it real quick. Probably looking in nature, so I have some semblance of it. This buff cannot be removed by other heroes. Oh, so it can be returned. Okay. Okay. Um, I will ask you this. What cards can return combo buffs? If you guys can name cards that can return combo buffs, I'll have that be a little more viable. Because I have never been able to return this to anyone's hand because it's a combo buff. Essentially, I always assumed it could not be returned because I don't think there is any cards that can return combo buffs. But maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, awesome. If I'm wrong, awesome. Dread has one? Is it a new one? Warp Toad's getting rotated out, Wrangler. Warp Toad's getting rotated out. But if Dread has one, never mind. Kudos. Oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, I think they just got it. It's the... Yeah, you're right. Return one buff to any owner's hand. You're right. Forest Mender's getting rotated out. Can Scrap Scanner really do that? Scrap Scanner only returns your buffs, not your opponent's. Okay. But it returns your buffs. You can't return an opponent's buffs, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, Mantic's Weaver, you trigger all your defend abilities in play. This is a defend ability. You could potentially use this defend ability, and if you have Soul Superior, you could trigger it again with the Mantic's Weaver. A 7-point swing off a Mantic's Weaver, if you think about it, is perfectly fine with just laying a Mantic's Weaver. If you have 2 or more of the defend abilities out there, like a Hungry Behemoth and trigger for healing, Mantic's Weaver is going to be a lot more viable card than it already is. Oh, sorry, Rocket Star. Yeah, you would have to return your opponents. But yeah, it's a defend ability that is a 7-point swing if set up next to a combo. If not, it's still a 4-point swing. That's still really good. Nature has a lot of ways of increasing its damage and healing potential. Because if you put one Citadel Musician out there, this is a 3/3. And then if you put it out there along with, next to a Forest buff, it's a 3/4. An animal buff next to it is just, if you go for full damage, you put animal next to us, it's going to 4 damage, 2 healing. Like, it's not choose one or the other. You get both effects. This is really good. But it has to be utilized in a nature deck, which is really funny because usually cards like this, we only see in Astral, you have to utilize the other alignments with it. This is probably the first time Nature's had something to do with, like, you have to utilize the other nature alignments in it. So Mossford Tribrider, I like this a lot. I like this. This thing is going to be really fun to do. I mean, if not, even if you just run Soul in this, like I said, it's still 4-point swing off 3 abilities, or off 3 corners. And it's a Creeble card. Which, once again, right now, Creeble's getting all the benefit added to it. So I love this card. I think this is a 4-star card. I am definitely going to have a lot of fun with this thing. This king is going to be bonkers nuts. And if you go in a very aggressive deck with a lot of animal buffs, 4 damage, 2 healing on 3 corners, it's really good. It's really good, guys. Yeah. Now we have Prowling Shimmerpaw. It's a soul animal attack card. We haven't really had a whole lot of soul attack cards outside of, the buff removal and whatnot, but a lot of the souls been defend. It's 4 damage. Once again, 4 base stat line. Awesome. Phenomenal card. If you have more buffs in play than your recipient, move this to the bottom of your deck. Yeah. This is a really good, really strong card. I'm going to give this 4 stars. This card is 4 damage baseline, which we've been seeing the most common occurrence for good attack cards right now. And Nature has probably some of the most consistent buffs outside, well, I guess Dread if you're full tentacle and whatnot. But Nature's always been really good at being able to maintain a wide board more than your opponent has lately. Mind you, that was because a lot of the decks usually went aggro, ran a whole lot of attacks. You didn't have to worry too much about your opponent playing buffs because everyone played aggro. So you were the only one with buffs in your deck. Now, maybe not so much. But still, I mean, you probably just include 1 or 2 of these in your deck, and it's a soul card, which is a lot of the combo payments that we're seeing out there. And you probably only use this when you have more buffs in play. And it's just 4 damage. Like, you compare this to a card, another beast card, which is in soul, called the Oh, Lord. I cannot think of the name. I'm really bad with names. That I tried using, and it was horrible, called Zfling Mob. You needed to have more buffs than your opponent, but because it was a buff, your opponent had time to come in and make this thing null and void. Flameborn Tusker, an amazing example. Yeah, if you have 2 or more elemental type buffs, that goes in the back of your deck. Prowling Shimmerpaw is a beast attack card for soul that goes to the bottom of your deck. Then guess what you can do? You can Ashwood Nurturer, look for a beast card, get a 4 damaging attack beast card, and put it right back in your hand. Like, this card is really good, just for beasts alone. For a 4 damaging attack card for beasts is really good. Being able to put that thing back in your deck, really good. Mind you, it's soul, which means Fairpang can use this. Fairpang is really good at drawing cards, having them be beasts, getting additional actions, and going wide on board from what I've seen, and being very aggressive. Prowling Shimmerpaw is going to love Fairpang. Just saying. Prowling Shimmerpaw, I think, is a solid card. It's a 4-star card, which is really funny because all the common cards are been getting like 3 or 4s. And like as we go into rare, that's where they're like really nitpicking that stuff. And I'm like, it's not going to be viable. It's not going to be viable. The only difference is it doesn't say if your deck is not empty. That's a plus. That's true. Yeah, it doesn't even say if your deck is not empty. There you go. There you go. Yeah, Prowling Shimmerpaw is a solid card. 4 stars on that thing. That's really good. Soul Tunneler. It's an insect buff, first of all. Amazing. It does have burn, but it's taking over for Rootsinger. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. If a buff next to this one, or if there's a buff left of this one, move action cards from your discard pile to your hand that share an element with it. Otherwise, move 1 action card and expire this buff. This is really good. This is really good. First of all, you had to have more buffs than your opponent to lay Rootsinger back regardless, right? So you get full value of 2 Singer. Rootsinger was just, if otherwise it was 1 specific card back. This one, because it's on a buff, your opponent, yes, can remove it and kill your graveyard recursion, but that's completely fine. You know what we just had? We had a nature card that allowed you to rearrange your entire board. So if you're looking for something specific, you lay Soul Tunnel and you move that board around so Soul Tunnel is next to a buff that you want to get a value from. There's just a lot of really good synergistic things that nature has to do with its board now, simply because it can manipulate its own board. And Soil Tunneler, being an insect card, was really loving the graveyard recursion theme, which is how I wish insects would start going in the future. Play Fusion, if you're listening, take notes. I want insects to do something with the graveyard or the discard or the deck shrinking in some way. I want that from them so bad. Soil Tunneler, I think, is a 4-star card. It's not going to compete with Necro Judgling. I still think Necro Judgling is probably the best one for graveyard recursion. It's instant action. You get 3 cards. They're back into your deck, which helps you in the long game regardless. Soil Tunneler, your opponent does have a chance to remove it. Otherwise, you get cards back. And yes, it is to your hand, which is really nice. Maybe you're looking for a specific animal card or a beast card or something like that. But nature also has buff removal that does not have burn. You can bring back soul cards that you could use later. Like it feels really situational to make sure you get certain cards back. Because your nature, you're always going full wide on board. That Soil Tunneler, because there's so many things, and 2 healing. Where's 2 healing? There's no 2 healing on this. Where are you seeing 2 healing? There's no healing on this Jovi. I'm so confused right now. But yeah, this card's just really good. Necro Judgling. Yes, Necro Judgling is also 2 healing. Yes, you're absolutely right on that. But I mean, just look at this card. I think this is actually a much more well-balanced card, in my opinion. Because it does allow your opponent 1 turn to be like, no, I don't want you to get a specific card back in your discard pile. I'm going to remove this buff. And then later in a while, it's like, okay, well, I run 3 of them in the deck. You can't have all your buff removal save for Soil Tunneler. It's not going to happen. So Soil Tunneler will eventually get the cards back you want it to. And if for some reason you have an empty board, slam Soil Tunneler down just on its own to get 1 specific card back. Just 1 of any card that you really want, and that's the card you'll get back. Maybe it's an attack card. Late in the game, your board is empty. You need something, or it's like, hey, I need an Insect Swarm to have the infinite damage for late game. I'll get that back. Soil Tunneler has a lot of really strong things to do. And in my opinion, it feels a lot more balanced than Rootsinger. Rootsinger was always added. If you're like, oh yeah, I want Soul just to run, I run a very buff-heavy deck, I'll run Rootsingers so I can get 2 cards back almost at all times when I have more buffs than my opponent. Soil Tunneler, it still allows you to get 2 cards back to your hand, but it has to be specific, played right. Your opponent has a chance to remove it. There's a lot of checks and balances with this card now that I feel like this card, what did I say, 3.5? This card is a 3.5 card, where Root Stringer was like a 6-star. Like, that thing was busted beyond all belief. Soil Tunneler, yeah, it's just really good. And it belongs to an insect family, which there's some cards that deal with insects. Oh, am I still on the soul? There is Egg Chamber. Search for an insectoid card. Awesome. Bring that card to my hand. Why not? So yeah, that Soil Tunnel I think is a really solid card. It can be utilized outside of nature, which is really good too, which is where the 0.5 comes in. But yeah, it's a nice solid card. It's probably only going to be really used in like late game decks where graveyard recursion off of a buff is better. More tempo, you should be winning by the time your deck is halfway through, or at least by the time you're down to 10 cards anyway, so you won't need your graveyard to help you out. But, I mean, Soil Tunnel is just good. It's just a nice, good card to help with certain situations, to bring cards back if you really need them to. It really helps the control aspect, which, nature did not need help with control. Did not. Just putting that out there. Did not need it. We're on to Anchored Soul. Anchored Soul is probably one of my new favorite ones that I love in nature. First of all, it's an undead, which outside of Soul of War, that was like the only undead buff that you could really utilize with the Scale Fang that allowed you to pick a specific family. You and your opponent get a card back, and you would always choose undead to get your Reckless Spirits back. Anchored Soul is another undead buff. Awesome. We're starting to see a little more undead bleed into nature the way it did. It's not strictly forbidden or hidden into Dread. This is essentially what's taking over for Spectral Web. One sec. Spectral Web. First of all, I have love and hate for that card. Mostly hate. Now that it got nerfed, I have love for it again. But Spectral Web literally blocked your entire board. It did what Steel Fortification does for tech, but 10 times better on an action card. Should not do that. Action cards should not overpower combo cards. Just saying, everyone, okay? Combo cards should be better than action cards 10 out of 10 times, which is why I'm still upset that Eclipse is not as good as Blinding Beetle. Still upset by that. But the buff to the left of this one, so like, once again, a buff where it utilizes board position, making that nature card that we got even more stronger, but it literally is like, okay, yeah, if it's next to this specific one on the left, you cannot remove that one. You can remove this one, but not the one I'm really trying to protect. The added bonus that it gets is if you get attacked, this buff restarts. It restarts. So, like, you're really going to want to put this buff next to either a consistent buff, a buff that you can keep restarting and doing stuff with, or, like, down the long line of a board of buffs that, like, eventually are going to expire, and you just keep making that last one protected. Anchored Soul it's a really solid card. I'm going to give it a 4-star. It's not that it really breaks the bank. It doesn't protect every buff to the left. It doesn't do, Obfuscation is still somewhat better than this. Actually, not somewhat. It's still better. It protects the left 2. This one only protects the left 1. And this one still can be returned and removed. What I do like is this doesn't have burn. You can still bring this back and still use it to protect that one buff essentially anyway. It has the restart value from your opponent controlling it. What did I say? 4-star? I think it's a 4-star. I think it's a 4. Maybe, no, it's a 3.5. 3.5. Where because it does only protect 1, it's good. It's a solid card. It has no real impact on the board other than, like, you can't remove that one buff. It's not as strong as Spectral Web, which is A-okay. 3.5, I think is a solid number for this, where you lay it, your opponent goes, oh, man, that's a bummer. But they can still remove it. And nature, you go wide on boards, they can remove another buff, still get the good buff removal value as well. They attack you, you restart this buff. There's a little added protection to it. Anchored Soul is it's a solid card. It's a solid card. It's nothing that we're going to be, like, tearing our hair out like we were for, does it restart if you attack yourself? Jovi, it would, but it is physically impossible to attack yourself. Physically impossible to attack yourself in this game. But, yeah, I mean, it's a solid card. It's a nice balance between Brig Briz. Thank you very much for the 5 bits. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, I like this card. I like this card a lot. It's a 3.5. It's a really, really good, solid card that has a lot of utility, can be used elsewhere outside of nature. but is not one where you just want to kill yourself, where you're like, great, this is redonkulous. Mind you, like with this, I can see this being splashed into... I thought Frenzied Zap... Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's a defend card. Yeah. No, the way I see this too is like, hey, you know what would be really fun? If you splashed Soul into an undead deck just to run some Anchored Souls in there. You could return 4 undead buffs, and Anchored Soul is one of the undead ones, and you put them back in a specific order you want them to. Put Anchored Soul back next to the one buff that you're like, hey, you know, these other 2 undead buffs, cool, they're fine, but this one is the one that I really care about, and this one is going to stay out for the next 4 turns at least, because you can't remove it. You can remove Anchored Soul, but you cannot remove the undead buff that I wanted to bring back specifically, which is where I think Anchored Soul is really going to see its little shining moments. Otherwise, it's just going to do decently well or good in some decks that require you to like, hey, I want to really keep this one buff alive for at least 4 turns, do all that stuff with it. You can even put this next to a combo buff, too. You can put it next to a combo buff that you don't want removed, because it doesn't say action buff, it's just the buff next to this one. So you let a combo buff, they didn't remove it, you slam Anchored Soul down, you're like, cool, next 4 turns you can't do it. Which is why I'm saying in an undead deck, this would be insane, because you put this next to Soul Whale, it's an undead card. Soul Whale is a constant buff. Put Soul Whale out there. Put Anchored Soul out. It's an undead card, so it does all the things that Soul Whale does. And then Soul Whale is protected for the next 4 turns. And that's what will, with undead, will start going super high roll. But that is a death deck, or it has to be death because it requires 1 of each one for death. But that's where Anchored Soul, I think, is really going to shine, is in Dread and not in Nature. Dread is going to love Anchored Soul more than Nature is going to love Anchored Soul because of the fact that it is an undead card. I like it. I think it's a good card. Definitely be on the lookout for it. I'm going to try and build it. I'm going to try and build a Dread, Dread deck with some Soul in with it. I think it's going to be really fun. Now on to the combos. We have Bane Bloom. Damage your target, draw cards. This is a solid combo. It's Animal and Soul. It means it already fits into Zelina Bloodroot. It already fits into a lot of other just really easy things to do. I think Feral Spirit is the one it's taking over for, which is the 10 damage one for Nature. Nature has a lot of big spiky combos. It doesn't need Feral Spirit. It's fine if we lose this one. Bane Bloom is really good. Bane Bloom is like, oh man, am I healing for 1, 1, and 2? That's not that good. But Bane Bloom is, but you're also drawing 1, 1, and 2. And if I haven't said it before, guys, card draw is card draw. Okay? Can we just go ahead and experience that card draw as card draw? This is, on the first turn, you draw 2 cards. It's not 1, you draw 2 because it's a combo. Second turn, you draw 1. Then third turn, you draw 2. This is a solid combo. It's only 2 alignments, really easy to play. I think this is a 3.5 star combo. Because it does fit into quite a few of the, I guess not quite a few, it does fit into like one specific Mythic Hero style, Zelina Bloodroot in its own. And Zelina Bloodroot did not have a whole lot of combos going for it. It did not have a really solid deck build. You could try and build some memes with her, but she really never really came into fruition with her combo set. Bane Bloom is an awesome one for her. It's card draw, it's healing, and then you can do whatever you want with her undead aspect, her insect aspect that she's now getting. That Bane Bloom, I just like. I like Bane Bloom a lot. I think it's a really pretty art style. I love this art concept so much. But Brig Briz, what is a meme deck? A meme deck, well, you know what a meme is on the internet. It's like one of those like pictures where it's like a really corny joke. There's like, oh, it's really funny. You read it and it's some sort of textual. A meme deck is essentially like you built it to do one specific thing only that a lot of people are like, that's never going to be viable in the game. You're never going to pull that off. You build a deck to see if you can pull that off. You build a deck to just see if you can do something completely ridiculous. And if it does go, both you and your opponent go, you have got to be kidding me. That worked? Kind of that style of deck. Mind you, once that deck starts being very consistent, then it's not a meme deck. Then it's just a good deck. Yeah, exactly. Challenge to see if you can get something goofy done. Yeah, Is Cassilia has a few on her YouTube channel. I go check that out. I saw a few of them. They were really good. I was like, oh my god, that's awesome. But yeah, Bane Bloom, I like this. I think it's a 3.5. Really solid buff. Nature does not have a whole lot of card draw in it. Micro healing, it's almost negligible. But giving this buff for card draw in Nature, for two payments, like I said, first turn, you use 2 cards to essentially draw 2 cards and get 1 healing. Then you draw a card, then you draw 2 cards. I'll toss 2 cards I might not need right away to get 2 new cards off of it, and then draw 1 and 2. Essentially, make this card a tree sprout. Yeah, not even in forest. I'll get this card a tree sprout all the time. Banebloom, I think is going to actually be one of the nature card or the nature combos that we see a majority of coming in because it's so easy to pay for, so easy to lay early and mid game. Late game, not so much, but it's like you use it for the card draw. You don't care about the healing. You use it for the card draw. And card draw is card draw, guys. Card draw is card draw. I cannot say that enough. Banebloom it's a solid buff. I highly recommend looking for it. Playing it, it's going to be good. Are we allowed? Yeah, Iskacil, if you want to link your YouTube channel here, go for it. Everyone can go check you out. I highly recommend it. Please subscribe over to her YouTube channel. Reclamation, 2 forests. Remove all location and machine buffs from another hero. Heal yourself for 3. Increase this by 2 for each buff that was removed. Oh my god, this is amazing. I'm giving this a 4-star combo. Mind you, it's 2 forests. It's a combo defend that removes a buff. So it's not even an attack. You can't stop it. Locations have been some of the strongest buffs that have been out there right now. If this goes against Mountain, this is bonkers. Like, hey, goodbye Mountain Forts. Goodbye Rickety Mines. Goodbye Enchanted Soils. Goodbye Mud Turtles Howlock deck, right? This is just amazing. Yeah. Awesome. And then machines. Like, if we start seeing more machines out of tech, and I think we did see a few new machines in Mountain, and there are, like, Mage Ship is a machine. Reclamation, it's good. You use it mostly for buff removal, so it's not going to be... Well, with that being said, I'm probably bumping it under 3-star. Because it is only 3 healing. You can increase it by, like... Because it's increased by 2. You don't like because it hurts in Bagnotron. Wrangler, you're just going to have to watch out for nature then, man. You're just going to have to watch out for nature and hope beyond hope that they don't run Reclamation. Because it is a very specific buff removal. Otherwise, it's just 3 healing, right? Look at this. It's only 3 healing. There's only 4 location buffs in Howlock. True. But you think of how limited buff removal is in nature alone. Not bad. Remove 1 location buff, becomes 5 healing and buff removal. Like, you get 1 buff removal out of this. It's 5 healing, remove 1 buff. For a 2-cost combo. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's the Mountain one. I cannot think of the name right now, but it was a 2-cost combo, 5 damage, and then removed a buff from another hero. A lot of people ran that. Yes, this is more specific, but because it's more specific, you have a chance of removing upwards of 2 or 3 buffs and getting a big heal spike out of it. I think this is really good. Rock Melter, thank you, Wrangler. Okay, S-Darbs, Howlock's deck maybe not good, but Edda the Depths, it'll eat Edda alive. But I mean, just think, location is not restricted to Mountain. There's a lot of location buffs everywhere you look. There's location in nature. There's location in astral. There's location in tech. Like there's a lot of just location buffs everywhere. That, in my opinion, yeah, running 1 reclamation in a deck, especially if it's like heavy on forest, if you can just remove 1 and get 5 healing out of it, that's worth 2 cards. That's worth 2 cards, especially if like you can swing and remove 2 buffs and get 7 healing. That's way better. Like, immediately that becomes way better. You're never going to lay this card for just 3 healing. You're always going to save it for a buff removal. Because it costs 2, you can save that payment. You can easily pay that. If not, you use it to pay for other combos that are 2 forest, like Tree Whispers. With all the forest buffs out there. Yes, go for it. But yeah, Reclamation, I like this card a lot. I like this card. I was 4, then I was 3, now I'm 3.5. 3.5. This card is a solid card. I love this card a lot. It's going to ruin decks that run machines and locations. Outside of that, locations are still pretty prominent, where like at least 1 or 2 are probably running a lot of decks out there nowadays. If not, then it's just probably used for combo payment. And hopefully you can kill them before you need to use 3 healing on a combo. But like, yeah, if you think about it, if you're probably going to lay this for buff removal. So the way to think about this is read it as 2 payments for remove 1 buff, 5 healing. That's a good card. That's a good card. You can possibly increase more, even better for 2 payment. It's a sideboard card in your opinion. That's fine, Darbs. That's fine. There's a lot of other nature combos that are better than this. But I mean, if you're running a forest heavy deck, this is a good combo for it. Like, yeah, it's going to work against some certain decks better. Otherwise, like, you're probably not going to include this in every deck. No, there's a lot of better nature. Vine Lash, Treetop Tribunal are both staying there. But guess what? Treetop Tribunal is 2 forests, 1 animal. You can run this in a Treetop Tribunal deck and still have those 2 heavy hitting combos. Like, it's really good. It's really good. Also, let me also put this out there for you guys. Road 202 is a location buff. Enough said. Okay? You all hate that card so much. Here's your buff. Or here's your combo. Boom. Road 202 is a 10-star card. This immediately gets the bump up to 3.5. Boom. Yeah, Mountain Tech and Dread, all of their damage reduction buffs are location cards. Exactly as Cassilia. Or LS Cassilia. I keep saying it is, and I know it's LS. But yeah, I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, which makes this card good. I'm not saying like you're going to run it in aggro. No, you would never run this in aggro because you're still going to include like ambush. You're still going to include, or not ambush, maybe territorial dominance, Vine Lash, Treetop Tribunal. You're still going to include the heavy hitting ones. In a mid-range or control, Reclamation's good. It's good to see play. 3.5. I love the card. Now we have Rile Up. 3 animal cards. Move up to 2 Creeble cards from your deck to your hand, which we've already seen in Creeble. Once again, really good. Reveal up to 4 Creeble cards from your hand to damage your target equal to revealed cards plus 4. It's a defend card that deals damage. I want to add that in right now. That's a big bonus to me because this will get past all of the dread stuff that say cancel the next combo attack. This is a defend card that deals damage. It's a kill shot after your opponent tries to block an attack. Awesome. Mud Turtle, hello. Welcome to the show. Let alone laying this card is at minimum 4 damage. You're not going to lay for 4. You're probably going to lose, draw this like Cowboy Hat Valor. Hello. Yeah, you're gonna draw 2 Creeble cards. It's Creeble Search. So you pay 3 cards to draw 2 Creeble cards. Then you deal 6 to 8 damage on a defend card. It's okay. Then you draw a 3rd card for the combo. So a 3-cost combo that potentially draws you 3 cards, and 2 of them you get to choose specifically which ones you want. That alone is good. If you're in a very Creeble heavy deck, which is the only place I see this being in, because you're not going to run this in a Beast deck. There's no reason to run Rile Up in a Beast deck. You run it in a Creeble deck. I think this is a 3-star card. I think it's a 3-star. It's going to be only seen in very specific decks. And the fact that it only costs animal, which means for some reason, if you splash animal in and have enough to run 3 animal combo to do this, Rile Up, yeah, sure, why not? Maybe Rile Up goes in the new Mythic Hero. He looks so much like Illidan from World of Warcraft that I just want to call him Illidan all the time. But, I mean, yeah, you could run Rile Up and get 3, Undead or Shadow Creeble cards, which are just really good Creeble cards. And then have that be a Creeble deck. I could see him being a really good Creeble hero with all the undead, or with all the dead, animal, and Shadow Creeble cards that we're getting, especially the Shadow one Umbron that searches for 2 Creeble cards. That guy is nuts for Creeble. I think he's going to be Odrak, thank you, Mud Turtle. I think Odrak's going to be a really good Creeble hero. And in which case, Rile Up is going to be really good for him. Odrak the Death Hunter, Odrak the Demon Hunter, Illidan the Demon Hunter, same person. But yeah, Rile Up, it's a 3-star card. I like it. I'm mostly giving it 3s over like a 2 is because it's a defend. And having a defend deal damage is good. Especially now that we're seeing a lot of those canceled combo attacks or reduced damage from combo attacks. Gravity Bubble is going to be more of a kill shot now than Planetary Alignment, just because Gravity Bubble can't be stopped. Rile Up's the same way. Card search for tutoring for specific cards, drawing a 3rd card off Rile Up to deal potentially 8 damage. It's a solid card. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, exactly, Joby. And it's a tutor. That's so good. Mind you, a combo that searches for the same amount as 1 action card. Still don't know why that 1 action Umbron gets to search for 2 Creebles. Still don't know why. Every other alignment got to search for 1 Creeble, but Dread gets to search for 2. Don't know why, but it does. Put that out there. If it's going to do that much, make it on a line so everyone can get benefit from it. Please. You gave the good Graveyard Recursion to Unaligned. Give the tutor to Unaligned. Soul Song. 3 soul, 1 forest. Corner 1 and 3 healing. Corner 2 and 4 damage to your target. because clearly Dread needs help right now. Cowboy, when you're right, you're right. I mean, whoo. Crazed Bomber did just get nerfed so they can go wide on board again. Why not give them the card search they need? Soul Song, I just don't like it. It's very high costing combo payment. 4 cost combo, 3 of which are soul. Yes, we are seeing a lot of soul cards. Yes, we are seeing a lot of like Graveyard Recursion for soul. A lot of the stipulations where soul is going to be in your hand. So like it's the easiest one to pay for is the utility class, which is what I liked. Splash some Mountain and Adrak and use Mythic combo. Do it, Mud Turtle. Do it. So like yeah, the utility one is always the easiest one to pay for because you're going to have a lot of those in your hand by the end of the day because you're going to lay them in certain situations. So those ones I think are the easiest ones to pay for the 3 ofs. But like over 4 turns, this is 7 healing, 11 damage. That's, I mean, it's just, it's meh. It's really meh. I might run it in my Tree Whisperers deck just so I can pay for other combos. Like, it's really good to pay for other combos like Spirit Boon and Tree Whisperers. But Soul Song on its own is not a combo I want to lay. I'm giving this one a 1.5 star. A 1.5 star. It would be a 1, but because it's my opinion, I'm basing it off my opinion, and I love my All Forest buff deck. I'm giving it the 0.5 because this is the card that I need for that deck to help pay for other combos easier. It is not a card I'm ever going to lay. It's a card to help play my other combos easier. In which case, I do not care what Soul Song texts read. I just care what its payment is, and I can use it to my advantage. That's why it gets the 0.5. Just for me. All you guys can go ahead and say it's a terrible card. It's a 0.5 star card. It's not even a 1. Do whatever you want. But Soul Song, like, it's just... It's like a buff Corpse Crawler, essentially. Yeah. That costs 4 Corpse Crawlers to lay. Ellis Cecilia, prove me wrong. Please. But, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like... I mean, maybe here's what you do. Maybe you lay Soul Song, and when it gets to its 8th damage, that's when you lay Tree Whispers, so Soul Song won't rotate. Or no, it's only action buff, so Soul Song will still rotate. You give it an extra 0.5 on the 0.5 chance it actually completes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks like Groot is evolving. It's true. But yeah, it's just like, it's nowhere near impactful. It almost reads the same as like what Astral's, the new Moonlight Blade or Midnight Blade or whatever it is, where it's like minimal healing and then has a really big last corner for damage. And that one was just like, okay, if you get it to its last corner, kudos. But Astral has a Lara where it can spin its combo buffs. There's nothing in nature that spins its combo buffs. There's nothing in nature to protect it. Like, you can put Soul Song down, and then you can put the, you can put Anchored Soul next to it the next turn. You can do that. But at the same time, I'd rather put Anchored Soul next to a card that's more valuable. You know what I mean? I just don't know. Soul Song, like, it's nowhere near impactful on the board. Even the healing you get at the first turn is only for 2. Like, it's not even a big spike heal, then minimal, then big impact. Like, Rubble Roach was a decent action card because it dealt damage when it came into play and then healed you for 5 at the end. Like, you just waited for the healing. It's like, okay, cool. It starts off the smallest, and then as it goes, it gets better. And in which case, your opponent has time to prepare, time to remove, time to do anything it wants to. Soul Song, it just... No. I'm going to use it for combo payment alone. Outside of that, I do not see any reason you run Soul Song, especially over like cards like Vine Lash or Treetop Tribunal or any other thing that's more impactful on the board or has a deck to build around it. Soul Song is just no. No. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Gather the Herd. 2 forest, 1 animal, 1 soul. Combo buff that's consistent. It just sits out there. Instead of discarding, store beast cards under this card. When 4 are stored, deal 4 damage to your target for each stored attack and buff. Heal yourself for 4 for each defend, then expire this buff. No. We have a card called Stampede that is more impactful and it costs one less. I was convinced by Matt from Delivery Crap that this card could be good. It's like buff removal bait. You put Gather the Herd out early, and then you just kind of like lay your beast board, and they go, okay, either remove Gather the Herd or remove the beast, which go under the Gather the Herd, and then like you can, by the time 2 buffs go into there, then you attack and have this thing like hit for 16 out of nowhere. But like in a beast deck, I'd much rather just be consistent with my board, with my card draw, to get everything going, just consistently hit him on the board, than to hope. If I played Stampede, yeah, but I haven't said that in the podcast. I could lay Gather the Herd and then next turn lay a 3-cost combo. Great. I just laid a 4-cost combo and a 3-cost combo turn after turn. I better have 20 plus cards in my hand to make that benefit. Like it's going to be difficult to do, and if you can survive with the 10 cards left in your deck being the only cards you played all game to still live after that, be my guest. But it's just like, this card is only going to be good if you draw it early. If you draw it mid-game, you've used a lot of your beast buffs. You've used a lot of your beast attack cards to kill them with the way beast does. In which case, Gather the Herd, you're going to lay it down, and then your opponent's just like, okay, well, now I have the buff removal for Gather the Herd. Fine. A lot of your beast buffs I've already healed through or damage prevented. Fine. I'd rather just have Vine Lash sit down for 1 turn and deal 14. Deal 2 less potential damage than this 4-cost combo. Yeah, Jovi. I mean, like I said, it's potentially 6 damage that can bait removal for your other beast cards to sit out there. That's great. That's fine. I'd still rather run Vine Lash and get a guaranteed 14 the next turn if it's not removed. I'd rather run Treetop Tribunal, which is 1 soul less than this exactly, and get 16 no matter what, and it can't be removed. It can be returned, so I'll lay it again, but it can't be removed. It just, I don't know. I didn't even run Raging Spirit, the soul spirit buff that stored beast cards under it to deal more damage. I never even ran that, because my beast decks all worked really well with beast buffs. I didn't need to lay a spirit buff to hit him for more damage because I was restarting all my beast buffs. I was making sure my board was consistently strong at all times. I didn't want them to expire. Like, I didn't want my animal cards to expire. And now we have a really good soul beast attack card that I don't even want to go into the discard pile. I want it to go to the bottom of my deck. I don't want it to go into Gather the Herd because then it will go to the discard pile. Like, with all the cards we have now for beast in nature, you really don't want your board to expire. Nature is really good at restarting and maintaining a very strong board state with letting the buffs sit out there and restart consistently. Draga Hunter, or not Draga Hunter, the Draga Forest buff. Cannot think of the name. Bloomback Draga is a beast buff with burn, or it has unique, so that one can be stored. But this one restarts your buffs. We have, I want to say the defends for, well, no, we just got that one, rotated beast buff, 1 step forward, restart it, right? We just got that one. We have, oh my word, is it a soul card? Yeah, it's a soul card. It's a soul card. We have Spineback Stockjaw, a beast card to restart one of your buffs. So, like, yeah, you can lay a bunch of the beast attack cards and have them go under here, and that's probably what you're going to do because your buffs want to stay on board. And then Gather the Herd, like, I don't see this being impactful in any way. If you can maintain a good board state and kill them mid-game before you get a 4-cost combo to deal its thing, I would say this card becomes good when Vine Lash leaves. When Vine Lash rotates out and nature does not have many game-ending combos, then yeah, Gather the Herd will find a nice spot. Gather the Herd will be that one, hey, this is a 16 damage threatening combo. I have a consistent board that deal damage. Doesn't need to have a big swing hit, but it can be. But if you have Vine Lash, I will 9 out of 10 times run Vine Lash over Gather the Herd. I think this is a 1.5. If you're running full beast memes and want to run Stampede, go for it. Use Gather the Herd for payment. Use it for payment for Treetop Tribunal because we're losing regrowth when this is perfect for it. Go ahead and use this card for payment. But you're only going to want to run this buff out on the board like turn 1 or 2, or bait out all buff removal from your opponent, then lay Gather the Herd. Then you can get the card stored under it for a 16 late game hit. But if you're playing beasts, the way beasts have always been played, at least by me, I don't know any other beast control deck out there, you should be winning the mid game. You should be punishing your opponent so much where you don't need to find a card that does 16 damage. And if you do, you have Vine Lash and Tree Chop Tribunal, which do that already. Like Gather the Herd, it's not going to be played until other combos that are currently still in the set rotate out, and we do not have as many strong and potent viable options for nature to hit them for half their health. That's where Gather the Herd will find its home, when it becomes one of the few cards that has that big impact damage. And it'll be nice once we do that, because this is what we will get for beasts, for the big impact for beasts. We don't need Vine Lash for everyone. Not to rush you, but 2 hours past, you're still in nature. Man, I am, aren't I? I'm not even into the heroes yet. Like I said, Jovi, it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while. Green Thumb. Forests for 30. Increase damage done by your buff by 1 if you have a forest buff next to them on both sides. I like this card a lot. We don't have many strong forest superior heroes. Green Thumb, I essentially already have a deck that I use Cherry Blossom for that Green Thumb is going to slide right into. I'm going to give this a 3-star. It's a solid card. It's a hero that you build a specific deck around. It's not a hero that you place in everywhere. Feels like how you feel on Mondays. Just got mushrooms growing out of the top of your head. I think it's a 3-star hero. I think it's a fun hero. It could be competitive depending on how well forest buffs do. I love forest buffs in my opinion, but we are losing a lot of good ones. So I think it's going to be fun. He's going to be a very specific deck to play with. He's not going to fit into everything. But yeah, I like him. He's a strong, making nature offensive as opposed to defensive, which is cool. I like it. Sergeant Ironbark. Did I lose it? No, I skipped over a hero. Bramblewood Biome. I totally skipped one. Discard 1 Creeble card to draw 2 cards. Soul Superior. This guy's good. This guy's really good. Obviously, he's only going to work on a Creeble heavy deck, but this is how card draw with abilities should work. You should not have High Curator Hour anymore. You should not have a card that's like, yeah, I'll just always draw a card. Those heroes are going to be busted. You should have conditional card draw on heroes. That's, I think, the way the game needs to move towards, so that we have advancements for other heroes to move in, because everyone knows card draw is card draw, and you're always going to choose card draw over anything else if you can. Discarding 1 Creeble card to draw 2 cards, awesome. I think this is better than a lot of things that we already have. I want to give him... I would say playability 3.5, but because he's in the direction I want card draw to go, I'm going to give him 4 stars. I think this guy's really good. Creeble is going to be one of the more dominant families out right now. I think this card's going to be really good in a Creeble deck to cycle through the card draw, to discard Creeble cards, move them under, stuff like that, to draw 2 cards, really get the whole Creeble aspect moving. He's going to be he's just going to be good in Creeble. Card draw is card draw. So I think 4 stars for this guy, but he's not going to fit into every deck, which is nice. You shouldn't have card draw fit into every single deck. Back to Sergeant Ironbark. Animal Superiority increases damage done by attacks by 1 if you have at least 2 more buffs in play than the recipient. I like this. I like this a lot. We're actually getting a lot more attacks to utilize with. Mind you, this is not attack cards. This can be attack abilities, which means Hungry Behemoth, which means the Mantix one, Mantix Tunneler. Like all these animal cards that are buffs, essentially, you can trigger attack abilities and have it get increased by 1 as long as your board is larger. And as we already know, nature's really good at having a large, wide board. So having 2 more than your opponent, Arc Moss as long as you had more than your opponent. This is 2 more, but if 2 more, you then become more offensively stronger. Where Arc Moss just kind of shut your opponent down as a very defensive style. This one, you literally get more advantage. You start steamrolling your opponent. You look how they hit him in the trailer? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, Sergeant Ironbark, I think it's going to be a good card. I want to give him a 3.5. I want to give him 3.5. Not quite a 4-star, because how I think the game is going to start turning into a very buff-oriented game, his ability is actually not going to be that easy to get out as a lot of people are thinking. People are still going to play aggro, yeah, and if they play aggro, awesome. You'll get a benefit off of constantly steamrolling your opponent out of aggro. If they're not playing aggro and they're playing more tempo, you're going to have a hard time getting his ability to trigger. So like his ability is actually going to be very difficult to trigger now because more people are going to be laying buffs as opposed to just straight attack decks. So I think a 3.5 is fine for him, where he's not going to be the be-all, end-all nature hero that we all thought he was going to be, but he's going to be a really good one for animal superiority. We haven't really had a whole lot of animal superiority heroes that have been really good. I think Sparkbeak was like the only one. It's like, yeah, you can start with a 5th card in your hand. Awesome, go Sparkbeak. Outside of that, it's just like, okay, cool. So I think Sergeant Ironbark is going to be really nice. A lot of people are going to play him. That's going to be really cool. I cannot wait. 1 sec for video editing purposes. Stay tuned.